Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Communicate, Collaborate, and Delegate with Zoho Remotely. Thank you all so much, first of all, for taking the time to be here with me today in my home, where a child or a dog could interrupt us at any moment. It's very thrilling. I am very glad to be able to be here with you. Before we get started, I just want to take about 5 minutes, about just a few minutes to let everyone know how this webinar is going to work so that you can really get the most out of this session and not waste any time being distracted by this environment, which is likely new to many of you. If you attended the training webinar yesterday, though, it was all about how to run a webinar with Zoho Showtime. You will already know the stuff I'm going to go over, but hang with me just for a couple moments while I get us all on the same page. So first, what you are seeing now in front of you, this is my presentation. I will be using this to guide us through today, and you will notice that you can like the slides on the right-hand side if you want to by clicking the little heart icon. And I can also see these hearts as well. So if I say something that you really like, this is just a small way that you can engage with me and let me know by clicking that little heart. You can also use it as kind of a bookmark feature to remember the parts of the presentation that you want to revisit. I will also be doing some live demo today where I jump away from this presentation and share my screen with you so that you can check out some parts of Remotely in action. What we are doing right now, this little product tour I'm giving you, this is some demo as well, because this training platform that we are using, Zoho Showtime, this is also included in the Zoho Remotely bundle of products that you get for absolutely free. So this is just a little bit of training for you as well. You're getting the experience that your audience would have if you chose to use this platform for webinars or other types of training that you would do for your organizations or for your teams. Okay, so on the left side of your screen, there are a few modules for you to use there. Info is the top one, and it's pretty straightforward. That's where you will get additional information about this session. The next module is for questions, and you all know right now that I will be taking all questions at the end of this presentation, a dedicated Q&A time. So if something comes to your mind as we're going along, definitely feel free to submit it there, but just know that I probably won't answer it until that Q&A part of the session. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going to wait till we get to the end there. These questions that you submit, they'll be visible, and you can also upvote the questions that someone else has already submitted that you're curious to know the answer to as well, and that will help me know what to prioritize. If we've got like a crazy long list of questions in here, I really want to make sure that you all leave with as much information that is valuable to you as possible. All right, so next is polls, and I'm going to get us warmed up and participating here by sending out a poll to you all right now. And what I would love to know is how familiar everyone here is with Zoho products. So I've just pushed this poll out. So let me know your level of familiarity with Zoho. You can also totally ignore this poll by clicking the little X icon to close the window, but you can come back to it at any time in this poll section if you like, if you decide you want to answer. Great, I see some participants. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I will show results to everybody. This is where we stand right now, everyone. So check it out. This is where we are, and the results are still coming in. So next up, underneath the polls module, is the chat room. This is the chat room for our presentation, and it is helpful. I know you can technically type to me anywhere in questions or chats, but let's keep the questions in the questions module and the chats, just comments and whatnot in the chats module, just to keep things organized. So if you did answer that poll, for instance, and you said that you are familiar with the Zoho products and that you have used them, you could go ahead and enter the products that you have experience with, if you want to brag a little bit, into this chat space just to see how this works. You can already see that we have a couple chats in there from earlier, but if you didn't jump in then, now's your chance to start talking. Um, Everyone is going to be able to see what you enter there along with your name, as you can see. So you can use this space to send a message to me privately as well by clicking the little chat with trainers button, and then only I will see whatever you enter there. And this is just a great area in general to participate, to share your thoughts with one another as we go, or to let me know if any technical difficulties arise during this presentation. Please let me know. So if, for instance, you suddenly can't hear me or you suddenly cannot see my screen, this is a good place to let me know. The handouts module contains a PDF of this presentation that I'm working from. So in case, I don't know, like in case you want to just look back on it and remember this great time that we are sharing together, I've given you a souvenir to take with you. And finally, way down at the bottom of the left side menu, there is a notes module for all of you studious attendees that want to keep track of your thoughts during the presentation. Or if you're attending this webinar to get information that you're going to bring back to your team, you can take your notes in that space and then hit the button to send them to your email for later, and that will be delivered as a plain text file. All right, that is my spiel. I'm ready to start the show for you all in earnest here. So I see some chats. I'm going to make sure we are all looking good. Okay, awesome. Let's go. My name is Megan, as it says right here on this slide, and I'm an evangelist here at Zoho. And much of what my job entails under normal circumstances involves me going out, physically into the world, all over the world, and talking to all kinds of people face to face about the way that we all work and how business software fits into our work lives. Specifically business software because, specifically Zoho software rather, because they're my employer, of course. But as I said, this is what I do under normal circumstances. But as we all are unfortunately too well aware by now, we're not living under normal circumstances. Um, Things are really far from normal. And we're just in this situation where a lot is happening all at once, and things are changing so much just day to day, week by week. And we're all really just doing the best that we can to adapt to these rapidly changing circumstances. But in that, our notion of what work looks like and what life looks like for each of us, this has really been challenged in all sorts of ways. And a huge part of that change is the way that we communicate and stay connected to one another, which is really, that's where all of our work in any capacity really begins, right? So while it's really hard to say anything for certain these days, I think one thing that is certain is that if we are still working or belonging to any kind of organization through this time, we need good remote tools to help us communicate and to keep collaborating with one another and to delegate to get things done while we spend this time physically apart. So here is an agenda of what I plan to cover in this session. And my main goal for this webinar is very, very simple. I'm not going to fire hose you with information. I'm just going to hone in on 3 of the applications that you get with Zoho remotely and talk about how to start with those tools. So I will be doing product demo, but I'm not going to put my focus in trying to do a really deep dive on all the cool tips and tricks that you could possibly do with each one, but rather my focus is going to be to just give you practical guidance on using these things and showing you the ways that these tools actually work together and facilitate the work that you do with your teams. I want you to leave this webinar with just a solid idea of where to start with these things and how they would fit into your day-to-day operations, whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are. Okay, so first up on that agenda, I want to introduce you to what Remotely is and also talk a teeny tiny bit about Zoho as a company, because Zoho is sort of unique in a few ways that carry over into remotely and that are important and definitely good to know as a user. So, first, Zoho has been around for quite a long time, over 24 years. And this is likely surprising news to most of you because it's not a brand, I think, that has gotten a whole lot of buzz during this time that we've been in business. And the reason for this is because Zoho doesn't really spend much money on advertising. We invest instead heavily as a company in engineering and on research and development. We really take a lot of pride in the quality of our products and kind of prefer to let our work speak for itself rather than investing really heavily into hype, essentially. So, I say all of this because if you're worried about the capability of these free products and wondering if they'd really be able to support the needs of your organization, then let this give you some assurance. So, Zoho is a company of about 8,000 people. This is 7,000 plus employees. It's kind of old. We're up to around 8,000 now, a little over, um, all working together across multiple countries, cities, time zones, of course, um, as well as countless departments and areas of specialization across the organization. And we at Zoho all use these exact products that I'm going to be talking about every single day. So they are more than capable of meeting the needs of your organization. Another very important part of remotely that comes from the core of Zoho's company values is privacy. Now, a lot of companies give privacy a lot of lip service, especially these days. But I think a lot of them drop the ball in many ways, simply because of how many other organizations they involve in their business practices. So maybe the company really does value privacy, but then they use another company to run their servers, and somehow the data in those servers gets compromised in some way. Or a company says that they value your privacy, but they use your data for their own internal purposes, like developing projects that you know nothing about, or even selling your data to their, quote unquote, trusted partners. These things are really common, especially with free versions of project or products rather. And I think, we're all pretty used to the idea that typically free versions mean what? It means ads, right? Well, at Zoho, none of that is the case. So we are absolutely committed to your privacy because we also value our privacy. And this is the reason we are a private, bootstrapped company. We've never taken money from investors and never will. We will never go public. We don't have shareholders that we need to please, and we are already profitable. So the only thing that we worry about, the only people we worry about pleasing are our customers. And we are all very aware all the time that our customers have built our company. And this is the reason that remotely is free right now. Our customers have stood by us, for all of these years we've been in business. And in these times where these kinds of tools that we make are truly needed, now we are standing by you and offering them for free while we just try to get through this together. So even though remotely is free, you own all of your data. We do not. We will never sell it or use it for our own purposes, and you will never see ads in our products. And I think that's just nice to know. I think it's also useful to tell you about uh, how our products are kind of structured, because this is also a kind of unique thing that we do, and it will tell you about how Zoho remotely works as a whole. So Zoho has in its uh, out in the world full-fledged application portfolio over 45 applications, which are represented at the bottom layer here, and that's growing all the time. Like I mentioned earlier, we invest really heavily into engineering and product development. So Remotely itself is a product that was conceived of and released within the span of like a little over a week, which is it's very insane. It's truly incredible. Our engineers are very, very talented. So we make a lot of individual applications, which people can purchase and use a la carte. But what's unique is that we make them all to work together because everything is built in-house from the ground up on the same data model. So then we're able to put together and offer these really robust bundles of these applications that act as platforms to support like entire departmental functions. And so remotely is an example of one of these platforms. It's a platform of essential tools for teams that are working from home. So all of your data in these applications is related instead of having to set up all of these profiles for all of these different applications that are included. You are one user and you are remembered in all of these different places, and these tools all play very nicely together to support you. And then finally at the top, there's this kind of mega platform called Zoho One, which we refer to as the operating system for business because it you get pretty much all of the applications we offer, and with it, you then have the tools to support virtually every internal business function that you could think of. But we're not here to talk about Zoho One. We are here to talk about remotely. So remotely, now I've given you some good context for this thing. It isn't some sketchy little bit of free software that's only good as like a short-term solution. It's actually a really powerful toolkit for professionals or other types of organizations whose participants are all remote. It comes with access to 11 applications, which are all listed here, and we've organized them by their general purpose, or in other words, what sort of role that they would play in your day-to-day. So I'll get to the ones that we're really not going to cover today out of the way first. These are the tools that we consider productivity tools, the kind of tools that you would find in pretty much any office suite. So Writer is our collaborative document builder and editor, but actually we will be taking a peek at this one because I think it plays a really big role in team collaboration. It does on my team anyway. We also have a collaborative spreadsheet tool called Sheet and a presentation builder called Show, which I used to build this very presentation that you're looking at, this slide deck. Or should I say, since it's collaborative, uh, I was able to rip off many of these slides from presentations that my colleagues have made, and now I am using them to serve my own purposes. But that's what's great about collaboration. Next, we have are tools for supporting your customers or your team remotely. So Assist is our tool for remote assistance for your customers and unattended remote access for like PCs, managing PCs, laptops, mobile devices, etc., maybe for employees. And then Lens is our tool that sort of complements Assist. And it's a pretty new product, and it's designed to provide assistance for field service technicians. So think people who work around machinery at a plant or maintain servers. And Assist uses augmented reality to help support them in a really cool way. So if these tools here or this topic is something that applies to what you do, we have a webinar today, about an hour after this one ends, at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and that webinar will focus specifically on these two tools. So check it out if that's something that applies to you. These are our primary communication tools here. So Zoho Click, which is our chat-based communication channel and really the cornerstone of all communication and remotely. It's where I will be spending the most time in this presentation, I think. I'll be giving you a look at it here in a bit. And then we have Zoho Meeting, which is our application for conferencing, so web conferences and even a webinar alternative as well. And then there's Showtime, which is what we are using right now. And this is our training platform for hosting internal and external training. And finally, we have our collaboration tools that are They're designed to keep everyone on the same page and keep projects on track and moving forward. So there's Work Drive, which is essentially an online collaborative workspace, and a file manager. And then these last two products are both project management tools. So Zoho Projects is for waterfall method of project management, the waterfall method of project management, and Sprints is for agile project management. And if you do not understand the meaning of what I just said, do not even worry about it. That was for all my deep project management nerds out there. Unfortunately, we won't be covering project management tools today, but if you are curious to know more about these products, definitely let me know, and I can privately send you more resources to get you started with those tools. But we will also be hosting remotely webinars that focus on project management in the very near future. Okay, so let's talk about Click. As I mentioned, Click is our chat-based team communication platform, very similar to Slack, uh, if you're familiar with it, but it goes way beyond what Slack can do. It can do all of this stuff. So let's see here. It can do all of this stuff here. So not only are we messaging, but audio and video calling as well as screen sharing sessions are possible with Click. You can do video broadcasts with this tool as well, which allows like one person to hand the speaking back and forth, basically two people to host a meeting, which is useful for like making announcements to the entire organization and hosting live Q&A sessions, stuff like that. Those things are especially important right now to keep an organization together and everyone on the same page. So although text chat is great, we need that face-to-face time as well, right? That's a huge part of communication, and that's why Click can do all of these things. I think chat software is pretty well adopted by now, but uh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the questions here, so we'll check back later for this. But chat software, it's pretty well adopted by now, but a great communication tool has to be really flexible to give us room for all of the nuance that comes with communicating. And context is so critically important to communicating effectively. So even if you come across a great chat tool on its own that gives you all the flexibility to have different types of conversations like audio, video calling, the problem is that it's often totally disconnected from all of our other work stuff. And that's where we lose the context. And then that's what eats into our focus and into our productivity. If you are talking to me about, some document that we've been working on and passing back and forth, like maybe through email or something, our communication about it is going to be much different than if you were just able to share the document right to a chat that we were having about it. And as soon as I see it, I actually can take some kind of action with it. This is a totally different way of communicating. And that scenario brings focus to the exchange. And it's much more natural and a much more intuitive way of communicating than, emailing documents back and forth and then trying to chat about it and say, like, did you get my email? Did you look at my changes? This is all noise that we can really cut through with a solution that is connected to our work tools like Click is. And Click has a desktop version and a mobile version, as do all of the tools that I'm discussing today. And I can testify personally and say that both of these Click versions are excellent, and I use them heavily every single day, along with literally like every single other employee at Zoho, young and old alike. So if you look closely at this screenshot, though, which I know seems impossible, I'm looking at it, it looks extremely blurry. But if for some reason uh, it's clear to you, I have the window kind of minimized, which is, I think, part of the problem here. But um, if you look closely at that screenshot, you will see an example of a situation like what I just mentioned a second ago. There's a lot going on in this screenshot, but I'm going to draw your attention to some things that are helpful to know about. So first, I want you to look at that chat on the far right of the desktop version underneath that little mobile screenshot. So the first thing that probably jumps out at you, because it's just visually bigger than everything else, it's probably that little graph in the chat. But what is that all about? Well, way up at the start of that chat, you see that someone said, "Is it too early to ask for stats?" with that little nerd emoji or whatever it's supposed to be. The person clearly knows they're being annoying, so they're hiding behind that little emoji there. But anyway, instead of this person, Ryan West, having to reply, "Yeah, sure, I'll send them to you," or, saying our favorite weird business thing to say, which is, "Yeah, I'll shoot you an email." Instead of having to say that, he was able to simply share the file right to the chat. And yeah, that's cool, and it makes things easy. But I want you to notice that way up at the very top of the chat, where the name of the chat appears, you can see that this is a channel. And we know that this is a channel because we designate those with the little hash symbol or pound sign in Click. And what that means, a channel is topical. So it can have many participants communicating about a given topic. In this case, it's a channel to discuss marketing. So, in light of that new information, look at how much more effective from a communication standpoint that sharing this way is than relaying emails. This could have turned this entire thread into a thread of nothingness if Ryan West had to email that person. Why? Well, because what's going to happen after that? Well, inevitably, someone else is going to chime in and say, "Would you mind sending it to me too?" And then another person will say, "Me too." And then, it will go on and on. And before you know it, this channel devolves into just a bunch of people not talking about the work that they're in the chat to talk about, not talking about marketing, but simply trying to get this dumb thing circulated. Productivity has stalled. People have become distracted. If I'm part of this chat, I know that I am muting it immediately so my phone doesn't keep getting blown up by all of this nothing happening here. Um, which, by the way, is another great feature in Click, muting. But that isn't what happened here. Ryan threw those stats out there immediately for whoever wanted to see them, and things just kept right on going. Whoever needed that report could download it right then and there and go on to do whatever they needed to do with it. And Click not only integrates with these Zoho applications that I'm going to be talking about, by the way, there are many extensions and integrations. Let me go to the next slide here. So, yeah, there are many extensions and integrations that you can plug Click into. And this is just showing you an example of that. So those extensions become additional actions that you can take with certain chats, like those containing a shared file, as we've been talking about. Here you can see that this person is able to take all of these extra actions with this file that's been shared with them because they've integrated Click with these other tools that they use for work. So right here is an opportunity to delegate a task to someone in Zoho projects. We know that being able to delegate is a key skill for a great team leader, but people who tend to take the lead also are pretty quick to just do things themselves if something comes up. Not because they wouldn't let someone else take the lead on a task or a project, but simply because they don't want to look around for someone to give the task to. They just want to get it done, right? But this is an example of how this sort of tool makes delegating things a little easier. When something comes up here in a chat, you can take this action that says create task with Zoho projects, and you can just push it to projects and assign it right from there while it's top of mind. Okay, so now I have said a lot about Click. I'm going to check in, see how all of you are doing here. Okay, I've got some questions that we're going to take at the end. Everyone seems to be doing okay. But I've said a lot about Click, and it's really because I think this is the heart of your communication in remotely. So as you'll see, it's kind of woven throughout most of these tools to be right there for you to reach out to whoever you need to talk to as you're working. So I'm going to show you just a little of the basics in Click just to get you started. So I'm going to share my screen now with you all. And I do not want to lose anyone, so I will check back in to make sure that we're all still good with each other. All right, can you all see that? Can you see a little, looks like four color bars here. This is my screen. This is my cursor. Hello, hello. Yes, you can see it. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So, here is, instead of going straight to Click, I'm going to take you through your actual remotely portal, just so you could see what you would actually experience if you're just getting started with it. So here I am at remotely.zoho.com, and this is my app launcher. This is my gateway into all of these applications. So now I'll just let you know right off the bat that this demo account that I'm using is very, very new. So there's hardly any of that, juicy data that we love to see that makes things look very exciting as they do from the screenshots from my presentation slides. But, hopefully all of you have been stuck inside so long that you're getting great at using those imaginations, and you'll be able to see in your mind's eye the worlds of potential drama and intrigue that are waiting to be populated here. But the bare bones are going to do well enough for our purposes. So when you're looking at the app launcher, you'll see it's got all of these applications categorized in the way that we talked about. And since I am logged in as an admin, I have access to all of these tools, but depending on the user permissions that you have set for others in your organization, they'll only see the tools that you have given them access to. And as an admin, I will also quickly point out that admins get this fancy little admin panel where you can come in and do all of your organization and administration. You don't have to do that app by app, which is really nice. So this is what it looks like. This is where you would add your users and whatnot, but I'm going to go back to home for now. So we're going to launch Click right from this launcher. And you can always just go straight to click.zoho.com to open it up right away, or you can download the desktop app if you like, which is what I personally like to use. But this is Click. So I'm going to give you a walkthrough of all of the basics here. So on the left side, you've got your conversations that are happening right here. You've got your channels, which, as I said before, are topical, meaning that they will contain chats around a core topic. And you can create a few different types of channels, which I will show you here. You see already there's an external channel and an organization channel. So the org channel is open to anyone in your organization to join. So that's if I select create another channel, I have these levels of channels that I can create. And organization would be open to anyone. Team would be, only for a certain team. Personal is only for, specific invite only. And then we have external channels as well. And this is an important one, and one we get asked about a lot. People really want to know about whether Click supports external channels, and it does. So let's create one here. These channels are for communicating, using Click to communicate with a third-party group that you want to connect with. So they won't show up there in yellow by default, by the way. You have to create one first. So let's set one of these up. I'm creating this new channel with this other demo account that we have. So let's hope that all goes as planned. This email address, I have two email addresses for this other fake account that we use. All right. So David Ingus at zoho.com. This is one person. Oh, sorry, I'm typing so slowly, my fingers are freezing. They can barely move. Okay, so here we have 2 people. They're fake people. They're from the same fake organization, and we're gonna invite them to this external channel. But since everyone here is fake in this entire world, I'm gonna call this existential probs. This is the existential probs channel. And in the description, I'm gonna say, like, are we even real? Because I think that they would all have a lot in common and a lot to discuss about this. And as you can see, they don't need to all be part of the same organization to have this very important discussion. So not only can we chat with the people in this channel, but we can also, if we check out this channel, we can do a few other things as well. We can say hello to them and continue on this text chat, but um, we can also hold a prime time or a conference. This is in beta, so we will not talk about conference, but prime time. This is it's essentially a video conference. So, and I'm not going to click on it because it's going to ask me for permission for my camera and my microphone, and those two things are hanging out with you all right now. But essentially, there's two types of conference here. One is called handshake mode, which would be where two people essentially lead a meeting together for this entire group, um, or one person continues to call on one person at a time. So two people's video feeds would be visible at once, max. And the other mode is called assembly. And this would be where one person only is speaking to the entire group, everyone in this channel all at once. And it's great for like a mini presentation or an announcement. And so that's what some other things that you can do on top of just having a text conversation with them. You can also add more people into this conversation if you want. And they don't have to be more external people. So maybe this channel is dealing with clients who have spoken to, maybe some other customer service reps in your company. And now you want to loop those service reps in on whatever discussion you're having as well. So you can totally do that. And other channels work exactly the same way in terms of creation and what you can do with them. External channels, though, are the only kind of channel that gets its own special yellow category over here. And I think it's pretty clear why. You don't want to accidentally be communicating internal information on external channels. So we've tried to differentiate these in a way that hopefully stands out. Um, Down here are your contacts, and it's pretty self-explanatory, how to invite someone to become a contact. That little plus sign again is going to be your best friend. Um, but I want to draw your attention again to the fact that you can have a single external contact as well. So you don't have to just have external groups. You can just have one person. So maybe a client that you chat one on one with, like if you do some sort of personal coaching or something, you can invite just a single external contact as well and speak with them over Click. And so now is a good time to mention, I think, some remotely specifics on external users. So users of Zoho Remotely can create up to 5 external channels per user in your organization and up to 500 individual uh, external participants for your entire organization. That is the limitation, okay? Uh, so the options when you have one-on-one conversations, they're slightly different than the options that we have in channels. So we see now that in addition to our chat, we can initiate an audio call, a video call, or a screen share session as well. And I also want to point out that while our channels with people outside of the organization are differentiated, our one-on-one chats with people outside of the organization are not differentiated. So be careful there. Like this contact here, this is an external user for this, fake business that I'm using. This guy is not part of this guy's organization. And yet you would not be able to tell that, right? So just be careful, use some caution, always pay attention to who you're talking to. You can always come up here. I'll get rid of these windows. But you can always come up here to kick off some type of communication. From here, you can choose to send a direct message or start a group message, which means that you would just, click this little plus sign, add multiple people, start a group message. It doesn't have to be about a specific topic, but it's just with certain groups of people. We know how group messaging works. So you can start one of those primetime sessions, as I mentioned earlier, and just choose whoever you want to be a part of it. Um, and essentially, everything you could access somewhere from in here in the side menu, this just pulls those essential controls out into and brings them to the top so you don't have to hunt around for that last conversation that you had with someone to get back in it. You can just use these controls, search them from there. And so now I'm going to draw your attention to this little plug icon here. This is important because this is where you would access our marketplace of extensions to connect Click to the tools that we talked about earlier. So if you use Google Drive, for example, you can connect Click to it and share files directly from your drive. You can connect it to Zoho projects, like we saw, and like we talked about. Um, and all you would have to do is hit that yellow install button. It's super easy. And again, the value there is by connecting your primary communication tool to as many other tools that you use for your day to day, you're always communicating with context. And it really makes a difference to the overall way that you work by eliminating so much of the noise that can crowd out our communications with our team when our work is in one place and our communication is in another. It's really the difference between like sitting and working with your team all in one room around one table and having, your work materials in one room and the rest of your team in another room and constantly having to run back and forth between them. Which would you rather do? Which makes the most sense? um, all right. So for now, this concludes my Click tour. And now I want to talk about WorkDrive, which is the collaborative workspace that I told you about. So I'll jump back to the presentation. Okay. Are we all good? You see my presentation again? You're all still with me, hanging with me? All right, nice. Got some yeses here. You're all with me. Excellent. Okay. So now we are going to talk about WorkDrive. And WorkDrive, like I said, it's our unified file storage for teams. And it was designed specifically for teams and their collaboration in mind. And what what it allows you to do is organize all of the files that you deal with into one hub. And it gives you really tight control over the access permission. You can also create and store uh, different types of collaborative documents all at once from one space, which really just enhances collaboration because it's all based around this idea of organizing all of this material into team folders. It's very similar to Google Drive if you're familiar, but I think the major standout is that WorkDrive, again, is private. It's incredibly secure. Zoho owns and maintains each and every one of its own data centers around the world, which is, again, just nice to know when you're considering a tool that's going to host all of your work files, essentially. So I think the concept is clear, but let's jump in and take a look at both WorkDrive and Zoho Writer as well, because not only can you create these types of documents right from WorkDrive, but I also want to show you how collaboration works within those documents themselves. All right, so let's go back to the screen share. All right, here we are back and click, which we will get rid of. And now we're going to focus on Work Drive. We're back to our launcher. We open Work Drive from there. And so this is what a very sad and unorganized work drive looks like. Over the left side here, we see all of our folders that we have created. So you can create both public folders that are for everyone to access, like this general folder that we have created, which contains some, how-to stuff, the kind of thing that you'd like everyone to have access to. But you can also create private folders that are just for certain teams, like a folder that would hold files that are only for the marketing team only. So we will call this marketing and we'll make it private. And the description will say for marketers, eyes only. And then we just create it. And then you get some permissions. You can start adding people and set their roles as well. And it's very straightforward. I think this is also another really great opportunity to delegate some tasks in a subtle but I think very powerful way. So, setting up a team folder and making someone the administrator of a team's folder is handing over a lot of responsibility. And that's really empowering. Um, Even without having to have like a long drawn out conversation with someone, this is still communicating that you trust them to oversee some projects in this area and to kind of step up and take some ownership over this area. And that really goes a long way. So, beyond just storing these shared documents, it's also keeping you up to date on what has changed. So, I will leave this. And if I come here to unread, so this is like your news feed on what's going on with all of your documents. Um, if, for instance, someone had updated a document that I also had access to and made some sort of, change to it, then I would see a little red badge letting me know that something had been updated, and I would be able to see who made the change and where the change took place. And I think that that's really nice. It keeps you really in the loop, and it's good for keeping everyone working together because when you're working with a bunch of people on all kinds of things, it very quickly gets very hard to keep all of this stuff straight. So to know that I'm for sure going to be brought up to speed with everything, if I want to be, I can always ignore it. But just to know that there is someone keeping track of all this stuff and reporting it to me, that's a huge load off. And it's a big part of collaboration to look at the work that other people are doing so that you can either do your part on the project or just be able to give feedback. And again, it cuts down on the noise in communication that so often surrounds these types of efforts with the little check ins like, hey, I just updated such and such document. Could you go in and take a look? And then you have to find the document, and then you have to figure out what was changed. But WorkDrive gets rid of all that in a very simple way. So, what about these collaborative files themselves? Let's check out the different file types and check out what it looks like to create a file. So, here we see a bunch of different files. And you'll notice that they're not all Zoho type files, right? We see that we have a PowerPoint file in here. We have a .docx file in here. Let's see. You can get a closer look at the file types. But we have all different types of files. So here's your .docx. There's your PowerPoint. And these are all right alongside things like Zoho Show files and Zoho Writer files. So you definitely upload and store all of these different file types here, and that's great. But what's also great is that you can create brand new files right from here. You don't have to actually go into another window or into another program to start creating. You can do it just right from here. So let's do that here. this is a folder called My Pictures, and I want to start creating some content for this. So I could either upload some new files or create a brand new file using Zoho Writer. So Zoho Writer looks much like any other document builder, but what you might notice right off the bat that seems to be missing are all of the editing tools that you're used to seeing. Where are they? Well, they're right over here. They're hidden kind of. But you can still do all your fancy, schmancy formatting things that one expects to be able to do. And that's great. Got a lot of good insert options here. You can enter QR codes, barcodes, charts, videos, you name it. Here is where it starts to get a little more collaborative. You can, well, there's nothing here yet. You can view the document images only if the document contained images. But this is where you can start leaving comments as well. So you can start leaving notes on your start leaving comments on your document right from the get-go here for your collaborators to read and respond to. And this view section here will give you document navigation, which is a really important feature. There's nothing on this document, but if there were, it would give you a little map. And it's really important when you're surfing through very dense material. It just helps you to smartly get to the bits that you need to get to and provides an overview of the entire thing. So there's a bunch of very cool features in here in automation, but this gets a little in the weeds for our purposes today. But now, how do we invite collaborators to this thing and start collaborating? Well, you do that by hitting this share button, as you might expect over here. And here is where you start deciding who needs to work on this, as well as what their permissions should be. And I will add 2 people from within this organization, but I can also add collaborators that are outside of my organization as well. So this is a person inside of this organization. Here's another person inside of the organization. And if you want to add an external collaborator, you're going to click this little button that says new. And what this is going to do is generate a new share link. And I want this one to be an external share link. And when I go through, what I go through is a very similar process of adding the person's info, but then I can take some additional precautions here. So let's see. This is our external user. I can take some extra precautions and um, make this document a little more secure. So I can create a password that he would have to enter just to make sure that the person that I want to be seeing it is the one that actually will be seeing it. And I can also, set an expiration date. So that's going to give him, a limited window of time that they'd have to check out whatever it is I want them to see and do their part in this project. And you can also prevent the external collaborator from being able to download this document. This is set to allow downloads, but I can turn that off. And now this person cannot download this document, which is very handy, I think. So let's see here. Making sure that you're all still with me. I heard some beeping noises, which sounded very bad. It looks like everybody is still in here. All right, excellent. All right, so these are just some extra precautions you can take to keep this document safe and sound and make sure everyone sees what you want them to see. All right, so you'll notice that right up here, I will get out of here, right up here next to the share link is 3 little bars, or one bar with 3 little phases in it. So obviously compose is when you're just getting started and working on this document. But when you've added some collaborators and start really cooking with this thing, you'll want to click that review phase so that you can keep track of things like comments and revisions to the document. Uh, you've got that handy document navigation right here. You got spell check, which we love, gotta have. You can set this up to notify all of your collaborators as well every single time you've made a change. So that, again, you don't have to waste time firing up your email or getting into the chat just to say something like, done, or I added something, can you check it? It's helping to really maximize your collaborative efforts and keep everyone focused on the actual work itself. And so finally, when this thing is as good as it's going to get, you enter into the distribute phase where you can publish this content somewhere on the web, or you can email it out. You can post it to your blog, etc. Or you can come all the way over here and mark this thing as final, which will actually lock all editing until you enable it again. And so all of this you can initiate right through WorkDrive. And the beauty of this being cloud software is that all of your edits are saved as you go. This document is safe and sound. It's already tucked away in its WorkDrive folder exactly where it needs to be, right where you started it from. So no more having to remember to save it and then put it somewhere. You just begin the document right from where you want it to live, and it's that simple. So I hope you were able to see how WorkDrive and Writer, of course, the same thing would also apply to spreadsheet files and presentations that you build, all work together with team collaboration at the heart. And so I'm going to show you one last thing before we get out of here. It's very hidden. You wouldn't even know it was there. But if you come all the way over to this tiny little chat bubble and click it, at first, it is hard to tell if anything even happened. But what has appeared here is a chat bar. And this is actually Zoho Click. It's threaded into this collaborative platform. So we've come full circle here. Click is there, making your communication and your collaboration even easier. All of your contacts, all of your channels, they have followed you. They're just right here. And you don't have to bounce around to a bunch of different tabs or windows, but rather your conversations are coming right to where your work is, because that's what makes the most sense. And it's also not taking up a huge chunk of real estate when you're trying to work and causing a distraction. A lot of times we work and we have a chat window open alongside our work, just in case, because we don't want to miss something. And then inevitably we get distracted and it eats into what we were doing. But here we have that secure feeling of knowing that you will still see if you get a chat. You won't miss anything, but it's never going to take over what you are doing. It's allowing you to focus while at the same time um, making sure that these discussions that you might want to have around a document that you're creating are possible without having to navigate away from it and then having to come back to it again. All right, so this concludes all of my product tours for you. So let's jump back into the presentation here. All right, resources. So I just want to provide you all with some additional resources in case you want to know more about the products that I have discussed today, and in case you want to learn all of the fancy tricks that I didn't get to cover today. So here's a couple links. Another great resource that you might want to look into during this time is our ESAP plan, ESAP. It's essentially just another relief effort that Zoho is doing for our paying customers that have been with us for a year or more with 25 employees or less, because we feel that these small businesses are really being hit the hardest right now, and unfortunately will likely continue to be very vulnerable. So we just want to extend extra relief to these customers during this time because we truly care and we are 100% rooting for you. So if you qualify, check this link out to know more. I should also mention here, because I haven't already, I don't think, Zoho Remotely is free, as you know, but it's free until July 1st. And at that point, we will evaluate the situation, and if circumstances are what they are now, we will extend this offer. But we do at some point plan to make this a paid product. But you will have much advance notice on pricing details before that happens. It's not going to be anything crazy. If you know about Zoho, you know our products are extremely competitively priced as is, but that is just a heads up. Eventually, at some point, which we do not know yet, it will cost some money, and we still don't even have any idea how much it will be since it's still so new. But it is worth mentioning. So finally, before I dive into the questions, I want to sign off by saying that if this webinar has been helpful to you in any way at all, then go ahead and talk about it on social media. You can participate in this ongoing conversation that we're having around remote work by using either or both of these hashtags if that's your thing. And let your online communities who are also struggling know that we have these tools available to them if they need them. But more than anything, let your communities know that we are all going to get through this, even if we have to do this all remotely. So let's get into these questions. I'm going to check it out. Here we are.